Welcome back to my channel, the best place for millennial professionals who feel stuck in their careers to find their dream careers. In this video, I'm going to teach you 4 ways on how to gain clarity in your career. Make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell to receive regular updates on all things related to career change. Also, join my Facebook group called Career Change Advice, where you can chat with like-minded people who are interested in making their careers work for them rather than the other way around. Hi, I'm Dr. John Tam. I have a PhD in sociology from Oxford, and I'm passionate about helping millennial professionals find their dream careers through gaining clarity and building soft skills. You can't improve what you don't measure, and therefore, it's important to have clear career goals. So without further ado, here are 4 ways to gain clarity in your career. Number 1, make a list of possibilities and test out multiple careers as soon as possible. And this is important because you need to figure out what works for you at an individual level. We're all unique, and you shouldn't let other people's definition of success or of a good life and so on dictate what you should pursue. So for example, if you see someone driving a Porsche down the street and they're like in their 20s or whatever, and you're like, oh wow, what a lucky. But the person driving this vehicle may actually be in a lot of despair and might be thinking about driving into the next cement pole that's out there. What appears to be the good life for someone may not be the good life for you. That's why a lot of times when we're on the internet and we're on IG or TikTok or Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever social media platform you decide to use, and you see someone else living the good life, living it up, what you're seeing is the highlights of their day. And that may literally be their only highlights. So you got to be mindful of the fact that, okay, so what works for you? What is important to you? And one of the things that I advise everyone to do is write out a clear inventory of what is important to you and then rank them, right? Give them a ranking, use a point system, sort it out. Like, is this 10 points to you? Is this like 7? Is this a 4? And then upon juxtaposing and comparing different things that may at one point seem valuable to you, and then you might be thinking like, oh, wait a second, playing video games with my friends may not actually be as important as spending time with my kids. And so by having a list out and by weighing and prioritizing what's important to you in terms of your personal life, in terms of your career, helps you gain that clarity so that you know what to do for your next steps. And one of the things that really helps in this process is figuring out what skills put you in flow. And I talked about flow in my previous video, I'll put in links above, but basically, flow is the optimal state where you can spend 3 hours doing something and it only feels like 30 minutes. And the reason why you're in a state of flow is because you're so engrossed in the activity, because it's engaging and it just makes you want to keep doing it more. And whatever skill that you use at work that puts you in that state is going to give you satisfaction, right? And fundamentally, that is more satisfying than happiness itself, because happiness really in reality is quite fleeting. But what is truly fulfilling and truly satisfying is constantly being in a state of flow and feeling like you are doing something that is worthwhile. Now mind you, you can be in a state of flow if all you do is play Call of Duty all day, right? And so what you want to do is be in a state of flow for your career so that you can lean towards doing that more rather than always looking for flow outlets like playing video games or other things that may not actually be contributing to your career goals or your goal in life. And that's why for people who are in their 20s, I would recommend generally job hopping. And when I say job hopping, I don't mean like doing it without rhyme and reason, just like hopping at the next pay raise that's out there. There's got to be a rhyme, there's got to be a reason. You got to have a goal in mind. Hop to the next challenge, hop to the next availability for skills, because socially speaking, and this is done through research by interviewing hiring managers, right? Hiring managers find people who job hop in their 20s to be somewhat acceptable, like in terms of that age range for doing that. However, once you get a little older and like you're in your 30s, it starts getting less socially acceptable and a lot more questions are thrown out at you because of that. So if you are in your 20s and you want to gain this clarity early, I would say try out a number of jobs, try out different skills that put you in flow, and whatever you find that really works for you, just double down on that like a mother, because that's what you really want to do and that's where you really want to focus on. And so for more details on that, definitely check out my video, Job Hopping in Your 20s. Now, the second thing to do to gain clarity is to volunteer and do things that don't pay you money and see if it's intrinsically motivating. Because what you want to do is you want to find something that is inherently satisfying, not because of someone paying you or if you'll get some sort of punishment if you don't do it. And I talk about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation in my previous video, and I'll put it in the cards above again. But basically, you want to find something that's intrinsically motivating, and nothing can give you more clarity on that than doing something that's volunteering, right? Whether it's volunteering working at a nonprofit or volunteering working for someone to build their business. The bottom line is you want to be doing something for free for a while, I'm not saying forever, to figure out, is this something that you actually like, right? If you take away all the external motivating factors. And that's why volunteering is so important, and I highly recommend that if you want to gain clarity. And on top of that, I'll also say if you are currently not working and you are looking for employment, volunteering is a good way to start building that experience, to start building those connections. I'm not saying like to volunteer for like half a year kind of thing. I'm like saying volunteer for like 2 weeks to 4 weeks to just, start working in someone else's system, have other people, be curious about who you are, and perhaps start building the connections that may actually go somewhere. And I can tell you from my experience of using volunteers in my business, so one of the things that I realize is I become curious about them. I start wondering, like, how can I make the experience, as worthwhile for them as possible? How can we both get a win-win situation? And I find a way to optimize that. And by doing that, I naturally have to care for that person. And as a result, a relationship is built, whether there are next steps for that, in terms of long-term employment or even contract work, who knows. But at the very least, I know if someone volunteers for my business, the very first thing I do is like, okay, how can we get a win-win situation? And I may actually be able to refer this individual to other business owners in the future. So it starts something. If nothing is going on for you, volunteering is probably the easiest way to get something going on for you, so that there is momentum, so that there's the next thing, and so that you can also figure out what is the best fit for you in terms of clarity, in terms of what is a skill that you want to keep executing for the rest of your career, or at least make that your main skill. Because at the end of the day, people pay for specialists. They don't pay for generalists. Like, just think about a surgeon, a brain surgeon, they get paid a lot more than a general doctor, right? And so just keep that in mind. If you have one skill that you're able to really double down on and master and charge a premium for, that actually is going to be a lot better for you in the long run than being a generalist that you kind of can do everything but nothing that you're really known for. What do you think about using volunteer experience to gain clarity? Let me know in the comments below. Now, the third thing that I recommend is to pursue a side business, whether it's building a side hustle in terms of after work hours, or just building something online. And the main point of that is to see if it's sustainable, right? If you start doing a side hustle and it's like wedding photography, for example, they have very nice cameras and they want to do photo shoots for people and so on, and see if you have what it takes to make this a sustainable business. Now, I want to be very clear that there's a very big difference in terms of having a side hustle in terms of like wedding photography, for example, or being a wedding photographer for a full-time business. And because this is a common mistake that a lot of people have when they start their own businesses, right? They think like, oh, if I open a bakery, I'm gonna be baking all the time and that's all I do. Well, you start realizing that once you start your own business, you actually don't do that one skill all the time. In fact, that one skill that you're doing, the delivery, the fulfillment bit, is probably the one that you'll do the least. What you're going to be doing the most is handling the accounts, doing paperwork, hiring or managing people, doing a lot of marketing, doing a lot of sales, and just doing a lot of stuff that may not actually spark joy. And that's why I would say for a lot of people, don't start a business just because your side hustle works. The side hustle idea is to kind of dip your toes in and see if it actually works. And if you gain momentum, then it becomes a lot easier. However, jumping headfirst into it, thinking that you're going to be doing wedding photography for the most of your time is actually not going to be true. You're actually going to be doing marketing and sales most of the time. And really nowadays, there's really no excuse for not being able to explore these side hustles. So back in the day, if you want to do a side hustle, it's much harder because you are limited by geography. But nowadays, a lot of what you can do can be done online, and websites like Upwork, Fiverr, and other freelancing sites can provide a lot of opportunities for people. Now, they're super competitive and you'll experience a lot of bad clients, and it's all part of the learning process. But I've heard of people who have been able to build a portfolio on Upwork or Fiverr or other freelancing sites, and essentially through that process build a reputation for themselves and basically be able to do what they love in terms of establishing flow, in terms of their intrinsic motivation as their full-time gig, and from the comfort of their homes. And one of the main reasons for success on these freelancing sites is that they were able and willing to work for cheap at first. And over time, after they build a portfolio and after they've proven themselves and have gotten good reviews, then they can start charging more. A lot of people are not willing to do that at the very beginning, and as a result, they feel like, oh, I can't take off on these freelancing sites. But if you're willing to look at the long game, then it becomes a lot more viable. Now, this is kind of like a high level talk on this topic, so it's not like I can dive really deep on this video, but the idea is that side hustles are a good way to figuring out, hey, what do I really want to do? The fourth and final thing is, I would say, get that clarity through stillness. And you need to quiet the mind and think of it kind of like a river. If the river is like the rapids and there's like, splashes everywhere and there's like white foam coming up everywhere and it's just like so busy, it's really hard to hear or see anything that's going to really stand out for you in terms of what you really want. And if your daily life is super busy and you're just caught up in the moment and you're just hustling all the time, it's hard to get that clarity. So think of it kind of like a lake, right? If the lake is super quiet, super flat, and there's like nothing going on, there's no ripples or anything, like kind of like a glass mirror to the sky, and you throw a pebble in there, you will see the ripples. You will see and you will hear everything. You're at a rushing river and there's like water spraying everywhere. You're not gonna see any effect of throwing a pebble into that river. And I think that's one of the things about COVID, and if you're looking at a silver lining, right? I understand we need to have a lot of empathy for the situation for a lot of people because COVID has wiped out a lot of jobs. But for some people, and these are clients that I work with, it's allowed them to have this clarity and this quietness, and finally they're able to take a break from the crappy job that they hate anyways, that they feel like they're stuck in, and they finally have that time to like quiet down and think like, hey, wait a second, I don't want to go back to that life. And it's kind of like that moment where you got to come to terms on, hey, what's my next move, right? And so if there's any silver lining to this whole COVID experience, this is one of them. And if you want to learn more about figuring out whether a job is a good fit for you or not, or whether it's time to leave, I would highly recommend you to check out my video on the reasons for a career change, and I'll put it up in the cards above. But if this is something that you are concerned about and that you're thinking about in terms of finding the next steps on your career, then you should definitely sign up for my free training on finding your dream career, and I'll put it in the details below. And you can also check out my free guide on how to find your dream career, also in the cards below. On top of that, personality is a huge factor in terms of what is satisfying for you for a career. And so if you are open-minded, for example, you want to be in a career that's constantly changing and engaging and you're constantly problem solving and learning new things. If you are lower in trait openness to experience, then what you want to do is you want to find something that's consistent and steady and something that you can really double down on and be an expert in, rather than always chasing the next change, right? And so if you want to learn more about your personality and your career, then I would say take my free and quick and accurate career personality test, which I'll put in the links below. Also, make sure you join my Facebook group, Career Change Advice, so that you can be in a community of people who are interested in making their careers work for them rather than the other way around. Now, after gaining clarity, what are my next steps? In my next video, I'm going to discuss with you what are the 5 possible options for millennials in a career transition. Because I've been doing this for a while, and at the end of the day, there are only literally 5 options to choose from when you are in a career transition. So make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell for updates for when it comes out. Also, leave me a comment below and let me know your thoughts about this video. Don't forget to give it a like and share it with your network if you found this to be valuable. Take care.